everyone, I'm Sneha, third year MBBS student at AIIMS Nagpur, and today we'll be doing previous year questions for the chapter Locomotion and Movement, which is under the unit of human physiology. And one to two questions are being asked from this chapter every single year. So, moving on to the questions, we have our first question. Which of the following disease is an autoimmune disorder? So, question number one, we have about autoimmune disorders. So, firstly, we need to know what actually is an autoimmune disorder. So, an autoimmune disorder is a disease of our body in which our immune system is overactive. Our immune system is overactive and it produces antibodies against our self cells. Our own body or cells. Okay. So they have given us options, which is gout, myasthenia gravis, arthritis, and osteoporosis. So let us know a bit about all of these diseases. Firstly, we have gout. So gout is an inflammation of joints, and it is not an autoimmune disease. Gout is an inflammation of joints, and it is not an autoimmune disease. Rheumatoid. Next, we have arthritis. Arthritis. And why is this inflammation of joints? It is due to deposition of uric acid crystals. So in gout, we have deposition of uric acid crystals, which results in inflammation of joints. Arthritis is also another condition in which there is inflammation of joints, but arthritis is same inflammation of joints. Then we have another disease, which is rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is one which is autoimmune. And then we have osteoporosis. So, osteoporosis is a disease which results in decreased mineral density of bone. Okay. So, out of these all, myasthenia gravis is the one which is considered to be an autoimmune disorder. And what are the characteristics of myasthenia gravis? So, it is an autoimmune disorder that affects the neuromuscular junction. Neuromuscular junction is the junction between the axon of a nerve and a muscle. Okay. So this region is the neuromuscular junction, and myasthenia gravis affects this part, and it leads to fatigue, weakening, and paralysis of skeletal muscles. Okay, so arthritis and all I've told, arthritis is an inflammation of joints in which there is pain, stiffness, and limited movement of the joints. Gout is a type of metabolic arthritis in which there is accumulation of uric acid crystals. Okay, so moving on to the next one, which of the following muscular disorders is inherited? Inherited means it is a genetic disease. Genetic diseases are usually inherited. So, let us know about all of these. First of all, we have tetany. So, tetany is a disease in which there is an imbalance in calcium levels. Which leads to muscular spasm. Okay. And it is a metabolic disease. There is no such genetic predisposition to tetany, so it is not inherited. Next one, we have muscular dystrophy. Muscular dystrophy is actually a genetic disease. Then we have myasthenia gravis. Myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disease, and D is botulism. Botulism is due to what? It is botulinum toxin, which is released by some bacteria. Okay, so out of this, we have muscular dystrophy, which is an inheritable disease, which causes the muscles to weaken. Speaking of muscles, there is an increase, and this is about muscular dystrophy. Myasthenia gravis and botulism, they are not inheritable ones. Now, which of the following is not an autoimmune disease? We talked about autoimmune disease. What are autoimmune disease? In which the antibodies are produced against our own body. Okay, so question number 3, autoimmune disease. So we have 4 options. Psoriasis. Psoriasis is what? Psoriasis is an disease. It is an autoimmune disease which results in formation of lesions on the skin. Then we have rheumatoid arthritis. I told you about this. Rheumatoid arthritis. Arthritis means what? It is an inflammation of joint, and rheumatoid means it is an autoimmune disorder. Wherever you find the word rheumatoid, this means that it is an autoimmune disorder. There is a disease known as rheumatic heart disease. It is also an autoimmune one. Next, we have vitiligo. Vitiligo is a disease in which there are patches of hypopigmented skin. Okay. And the last one, we have Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disease in which there is a deficiency of the uh, neurotransmitter acetylcholine. So, Alzheimer's disease, there is a deficiency of acetylcholine that is a neurotransmitter. So, this disease is not an autoimmune disease. Other 3 are autoimmune disorders. Okay. So, Alzheimer's disease is what? It is a neurodegenerative disorder due to the deficiency of neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Okay. And other rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disorder in which antibodies are produced against the synovial membrane. Where is the synovial membrane? Suppose this is one particular wound and this is another wound. So this cavity right here, this cavity is where our synovial membrane is present. This is a joint, and synovial membrane is present in a joint. Not all joints contain synovial cavity. There are different types of joints, but in cases of joints which are mobile, there is synovial membrane present which contains synovial fluid. Okay. And this is also the site of deposition of uric acid crystals in gout. Okay. Moving on to the next one, which of the following hormones can play a significant role in osteoporosis? Question number 4, we have osteoporosis. So, osteoporosis is what? It is an age related disorder which is usually seen in postmenopausal females. And what does it cause? It causes loss of bone mineral density. Okay. So loss of bone mineral density takes place in osteoporosis. So why does this particular disease occur in postmenopausal females? Because after menopause, there is a deficiency of estrogen, and estrogen was protective for osteoporosis. That it protected the bone marrow density. So estrogen protected bone marrow mineral density. Okay. So one of the hormone that is involved in osteoporosis is estrogen. Other one is parath hormone. Parath hormone, it balances the calcium levels. Due to excess of parath hormone causes loss of bone mineral density. Okay. So the two hormones that are involved in our osteoporosis are excess of parath hormone and deficiency of estrogen. And deficiency of estrogen takes place in postmenopausal women. Okay. So there are three causes for osteoporosis, which is excess of parath hormone, advanced age, and lack of estrogen in older females. Okay. So estrogen, bone, as we know, bone consists of two types of cells, osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are bone forming cells, and osteoclasts are what? Bone destroying cells. Bone destroying cells. Okay. So estrogen causes, it promotes the activity of osteoblasts. Okay. And parath hormone, it mobilizes calcium from blood from bone into blood. So it increases the level of calcium in blood, which leads to hypercalcemia. But the calcium, it comes from the bones. Okay, so there is thinning of bones and demineralization. Now, what is sarcomere? So question number 5, we have sarcomere. So we have in a muscle two main proteins are present, which are actin and myosin. Okay. So actin is the low molecular weight one. So actin, it has low molecular weight, whereas myosin, it has high molecular weight. And myosin, it has high molecular weight. So actin forms thin filaments, and thick filaments are formed by myosin. And this is the arrangement of actin and myosin. We have, suppose, this right here, we have the thick filament. This one right here is the thick filament. This is what, this is myosin. And then we have another myosin right here. We have another myosin right here. Okay. So this is the thick filament, which is myosin. Then we'll be having thin filament. Uh, this is the thin filament, which is what? This is actin. This is actin, and this is myosin. Okay. And the line which is passing from the center of actin filaments is actin filaments. This whole region is known as I band. Okay. And this line is known as Z line. Okay. And this whole segment in which myosin is present is known as A band, and this central region is known as H zone. Okay. So sarcomere is what? Sarcomere is this complete. It is the region between one Z line to the other Z line. This right here is known as sarcomere. Okay. So sarcomere is the region between two Z lines. Moving on to the next one, we have to match the following columns and select the correct option. Question number 6. We have floating ribs. So let us study how many pairs of ribs are present. So ribs, we have 12 pair, out of which we have true ribs, we have pseudo ribs or false ribs, and we have floating ribs. So true ribs are connected to sternum. This right here is sternum on the anterior side, and they are connected to vertebral column on the posterior side. False ribs, there are 7 pairs of true ribs. False ribs, so 1 to 7, then 8, 9, and 10. That means 3 pairs of false ribs are present. False ribs are how are they placed anatomically? They on the posterior side. If we take this as the vertebral column, they are attached to vertebral column on the posterior side, but onto the anterior side, they are attached to seventh rib. Not directly to the sternum, they are attached to seventh rib, and then seventh rib goes on and gets attached to the sternum. And floating ribs, they are not attached on the interior surface, okay? On the anterior side, they are not attached. And there are 2 pair, that is, the 11th and 12th ribs are known as floating ribs. Now we have floating ribs. So we know floating ribs, they do not connect with sternum. Acromion is, we have scapula, which is known as the shoulder plate. And this is scapula. And on scapula, we have an extension like this, which is known as acromion process. Acromion process is connects with the humerus. So this right here is humerus to form joint. Okay, so acromion, it uh, connects to the head of humerus. So and acromion anteriorly it connects to clavicle. Okay. Scapula is located between the second and seventh rib, and glenoid cavity. Head of humerus is inserted into the glenoid cavity to form this ball and socket joint. So the answer for this particular question is option number C. Okay. Moving on to the next one, we have joints. So joints, I'll just explain you a bit about joints. Question number 7. Joints can be of 3 types: synovial, cartilaginous, or fibrous joints. So fibrous joints, they do not allow any kind of movement. So no movement is allowed in fibrous joint, and fibrous joints is present in the skull. Okay. Cartilaginous joint, they allow some kind of movement, very little. And example is that they are present between vertebrae. Synovial joint, they allow movement. And we have different kinds of synovial joints. Examples are gliding joint. All those that are given this particular question are example of synovial joints. Gliding joint, hinge joint, pivot joint, and saddle joint. So gliding joint is actually present between the carpals. Hinge joint is between humerus and ulna that forms our elbow joint. Then we have pivot joint, which is present between atlas and axis, and saddle joint. It is present between the carpal and metacarpal. So gliding joint is where it is between carpals. Hinge joint is our ankle joint, ankle elbow joint, and it is present between humerus and ulna. Next, we have pivot joint, and pivot joint is present between atlas and axis. Saddle joint, it is present between carpal and metacarpal of thumb. Carpal and metacarpal of thumb. So correct answer for this particular question is option D. Okay. So we have to select the correct option. 8th, ninth, and 10th pair of rib articulate directly with the sternum. I just told you in this question itself that 8th, ninth, and 10th joint, they do not articulate with sternum. They rather articulate with the 7th rib. 11th and 12th pair of ribs are connected to the sternum with the help of hyaline cartilage? No, they're not attached on the interior surface. Each rib is a flat, thin bone, and all the ribs are connected dorsally to the thoracic vertebrae and ventrally to the sternum. No, all of them are not connected ventrally. There are 8th, ninth, and 10th ribs which are attached to the 7th rib, whereas 11th and 12th are free. They are not attached on their anterior surface. And D option, we have that there are 7 pair of vertebral sternal, 3 pair of vertebral chondral, and 2 pair of vertebral ribs. Okay, so this one right here is the correct one. So the true ribs are also known as vertebrosternal because they are connected. So this right here is our vertebrosternal. This one, false ribs, are known as vertebrochondral, and floating ribs are known as vertebral ribs. Okay. Moving on to the next question. So option D was the correct one. Next one, we have the pivot joint. It is present between atlas and axis, and it is a type of synovial joint. Okay. So synovial joint is what? It provides free movement between both the bones, and it can be affected by ankylosis, the condition in which this pivot joint is affected. Moving on to the next one. Out of X pair of ribs in humans, only Y pair are true ribs. So we know how many pair of ribs are present in humans. It is 12 pairs. And how many are true ribs? 7 out of these 12 are true ribs. Okay, so X is 12 and Y is 5. So they have given the explanations also. We have Y is 5. So we have option B, option D. The true ribs are attached dorsally to the vertebral column and ventrally to the sternum. So in this question, they have asked about the number of pairs. If they ask number of ribs, it would be 12 into 2, that is 24. Okay. Moving on to the next one, glenoid cavity. What is glenoid cavity? Glenoid cavity is a part of scapula. Question number 11th. We have our shoulder joint. In which we have scapula. This is a triangular bone. So this here contains of glenoid cavity, and this is humerus. And these this glenoid cavity, it articulates humerus with scapula and it forms the shoulder joint. Okay. And this is which type of joint? This is a type of ball and socket joint. Moving on to the next one, we have question number 12. Which of the following would allow no movement? So we know that we have three types of joints. We have synovial, which allow the maximum movement. We have cartilaginous, which allow very little movement. And then we have fibrous joint that allow no movement. And where is this fibrous joint present? It is present in the sutures of skull. So we don't have any movement in the skull bone. So the sutures are protected by fibrous joint. So fibrous joint is an attachment between bone which are held together by fibrous connective tissue. Example, suture between skull bones. Moving on to the next one. Which of the following is not a function of the skeletal system? Question number 13. Skeletal system, it stores mineral, which are the minerals that it stores? Calcium and phosphate. Calcium and phosphate it stores in the form of salt. Locomotion, yes, we know that skeletal system helps in locomotion. Skeletal system also has bone marrow. So bone marrow is present in long bones. And what is the function of this bone marrow? It is the production of RBC and WBC. Production of RBC and WBC. Okay. So production of body heat is not actually a function of our skeletal system. So option B is correct one. That is not a function of skeletal system. Moving on to the next one, select the correct matching type of joint with the example in human skeletal joint. Cartilaginous joint, I told you this is between our vertebrae. So question number 14th. Cartilaginous joints is between vertebrae. So they are given between frontal and parietal. Which joint is present between frontal and parietal? It is fibrous joint. Next, we have pivot joint, which is actually present between atlas and axis, and it is a type of synovial joint. Hinge joint between humerus and pectoral girdle? No. Hinge joint is not present between humerus and pectoral girdle. Ball and socket joint is present between humerus and pectoral girdle. And gliding joint, yes, it is present between carpals. So option D is correct. So correct answer is option D. Moving on to the next one, we have the characteristics and example of a synovial joint in humans. So synovial joints are the joints in which there is a fluid-filled synovial cavity between two long bones. Okay. So question number 15. Synovial joints. In synovial joints, we have fluid-filled cavity. And this fluid-filled cavity, it provides cushioning effect. Okay. And it is present between what? Is it present between skull bones? No. Fibrous joint is present between skull bones, and there is absolutely no movement between skull bones. It is actually present between atlas and axis. We know that pivot joint, which is a subtype of synovial joint, is present between atlas and axis. So option B is the correct one. Next, we have question number 16. Select the correct statement with respect to locomotion and humans. So we have first option, accumulation of uric acid crystal in joints causes their inflammation. Yes, this particular condition is known as gout. Option B, we have the vertebral column as has 10 thoracic vertebrae. And this one, we know there are vertebral column has cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. So there are seven cervical ribs, and it is a feature of mammals as a whole that seven cervical ribs are present in mammals. Then we have thoracic. We have five thoracic vertebrae. Then we have 12. We have 12. Okay. So just a minute. We'll just remember these are cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. Okay. And third option, we have that the joint between adjacent vertebra. What is this joint fibrous? No, it is actually cartilaginous joint. So the joint between adjacent vertebra is actually cartilaginous joint, which allows movement. Next, we have decreased level of progesterone causes osteoporosis. No, it is the decreased uh, level of estrogen in postmenopausal women or older people that causes osteoporosis. Okay. And vertebra, we have how many vertebra? We have four types of vertebra. We have seven cervical vertebra. We have 12 thoracic vertebra. We have five lumbar vertebra. And sacrum consists of S1 to S5. So the correct statement in out of these is first one, which is the right answer. Okay. Moving on to the next one, we have three of the following pairs of human skeletal parts are correctly matched with the respective skeletal category, and one pair is not matched. So, sternum and ribs, it is considered under axial skeleton. Clavicle and glenoid cavity. We have our option number 17th. There are two girdles, pectoral and pelvic. So, clavicle and glenoid cavity, they are actually part of pectoral girdle, not pelvic girdle. So option B is the wrong one. C, we have humerus and ulna. They are, yes, they are part of appendicular system. And malleus, incus, and stapes are three of our ear ossicles. Moving on to the next one, we have which one of the following is correct matching of three items and their grouping category. So ilium, ischium, and pubis. They are the coaxial bone of pelvic girdle. This one is right. So question number 18th. So A is correct. B, they have given actin and myosin are muscle proteins, but rhodopsin is actually present in our retina. So it is not a muscle protein. Then they have given cytosine, uracil are pyrimidines along with thymine, which is not correct. And malleus and incus and cochlea. Cochlea is not an ear oscicle. Malleus, incus, and stapes are ear oscicles. So option A is the correct one. Next one, we have elbow joint. Elbow joint is made up of what? It is made up of humerus and ulna, and it is a type of hinge joint. Elbow joint consists of humerus and ulna, and it is a type of hinge joint. Moving on to the next one, we have what is the float. Which one of the following items gives its total correct number? We have question number 20. So A, we have floating ribs. We know that there are two pair of floating ribs. That makes it a total of four. Then we have amino acids found in proteins. It is actually 20. Types of diabetes is type 1 and type 2. Type 1 and type 2. And cervical vertebrae in humans are actually 7. So the correct answer is A. Next one, in human, which of the following is anatomical correct? Collarbone is the name given to clavicle, and there is only a single pair of clavicle, that is two clavicles are present. Question number 21. Collarbone, one is present. one pair. That means two clavicles are present. Collarbone is what? It is clavicle and two or one pair. Salivary glands, we have three pairs of salivary glands that are present. Cranial nerves, that is cranial nerves, we have 12 pairs of cranial nerves present, and floating ribs are two pairs, which is the correct answer. Okay. Which of the following pairs is correctly matched? In joint between vertebra, we do not have synovial joint. We have between vertebra we have cartilaginous joint. So this one, option A, is incorrect. B, we have gliding joint, which is between zygophyes of the successive vertebra, which is correct one. Next, we have skull bone joints, which is cartilaginous, which is wrong because we have fibrous joint between the skull bones. And D is fibrous joint between phalanges. This is also wrong. We have gliding joint between phalanges. So the correct option in this one is option B. Okay. So next question we have, an acromion process is characteristically found in the. So acromion process is found in the scapula. Scapula contains acromion process. And scapula is a part of pectoral girdle. Okay, so we have option B, which is pectoral girdle of mammals, as the right answer. And the bones that are included in pectoral girdle are scapula and clavicle. Okay, so they have given that a spine-like acromion process. It is attached to the scapula for articulation with clavicle bone. ATP is enzyme which is needed for muscle contraction. So, as I told, muscles have two types of protein. Muscle has actin and myosin. So, myosin has a tail and a globular head. These are interconnected to each other, crossing, and this head, which is the globular head, this globular head, it contains the enzyme ATPase. Okay. So ATPase enzyme, it is located in the myosin cross bridge heads. And actin, it forms the light or I band, which I told you right here. Okay. So this I band is formed by actin. And troponin protein is involved in establishing connection with myosin during. Okay. So, what will happen if ligaments are cut or broken? Ligaments, they actually help to connect. We have question number 25. So, ligaments, they connect bones together. We have two definition, ligaments, and then we have tendons. They connect to muscle, connect bone to bone. In case they have said that if ligaments are cut, so the bone would not be fixed, they will become unfixed, and this is option C, that bones, they'll become unfixed. Okay. The joint which is found between the sternum and ribs in the human are question number 26. So sternum, we know it is a flat bone like this. This is the anterior view. And to this, we have our ribs connected. And these ribs, And these ribs on the posterior surface, they are connected to vertebrae. And these are ribs. So they've asked that this joint right here, which type of joint is this? And this joint is cartilaginous joint. So in angular joint, articulating surface of one bone is oval and convex, whereas that of the other is elliptical and concave. Okay. So which of the following is a skull bone? Question number 27. So atlas, we know it is present, it is a first vertebrae is known as atlas. Okay. So atlas is the first cervical vertebrae. Then coracoid. Coracoid process, it is actually present in pectoral girdle. It is a part of scapula. Then we have pterygoid. It is a small bone articulated with palatine. And this is a part of skull. Okay. So the correct answer for this question is D, which is pterygoid. So the total number of bones in the hind limb. Question number 28, we have hind limb. So hind limb, we have femur, we have tibia, we have fibula, then we have patella, then we have our metatarsal, then we have metatarsal and phalanges. So femur is one, tibia is also one, fibula is also one, patella is also one. And tarsals are seven, metatarsals are five, and phalanges are 14. So total, it is 30 bones. Okay. So in a hind limb, instead of femur, we have humerus, we have radius, ulna, we have carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges. And these are also a total of 30 bones. So this is hind limbs, and this is okay. The lower jaw in mammals, it is made up of mandible, which is the largest skull bone. Question number 29. Lower jaw is made up of mandible, which is the largest skull bone. Okay. And it helps in mastication of food. As you know that we can move our lower jaw, and this is due to what? This is due to the presence of mandible, right? Okay. Next question, we have the functional unit of contractile system in a striated muscle is. We have question number 30. The functional unit that is of a striated muscle is actually a sarcomere. So is sarcomere is the functional unit. And what is sarcomere? Sarcomere, as we know, I've shown in this diagram right here. Sarcomere is the area between two Z line. Okay. Next, we have the number of floating ribs in human body. Floating ribs, we have two pairs of floating ribs. That is equal to 2 into 2 equal to 4 ribs. So how many pairs of floating ribs are present? Two pairs. Okay. What is part of pectoral girdle? We know that pectoral girdle consists of clavicle and scapula consists of glenoid cavity. Okay. Long bones. What is the function of long bones? So, question number 33. Long bones actually contain bone marrow. And this bone marrow, it helps in the synthesis of RBC and WBC. Okay, so RBC is erythrocyte and WBC is leukocyte. So long bones, they give us support, and they also help us in our movements, day to day life. And their bone marrow, which is the peripheral part, it synthesizes the blood cells in adults. So deltoid region. So deltoid region is deltoid ridge. It is a part of humerus. What is humerus? It is present in the forelimbs, which is the appendicular system. Okay. So humerus, on the ventral side of humerus, we have deltoid ridge. So if we consider this to be the scapula, we have this as the scapula. So this right here is humerus. Then we have radius and ulna. This ulna and radius, ulna and humerus. Right here they form the we have the shoulder joint, which is formed by scapula and humerus, and it is a synovial joint. Okay. So we have the number of cervical vertebrae in camel is we have our vertebral column. Vertebral column, it consists of vertebrae. So there are four different kinds of vertebrae. That is cervical vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae, then we have lumbar vertebrae, and then we have the sacral vertebrae. So what is the number of these vertebrae? We have 7 cervical vertebrae, out of which the first one is atlas and the second one is the axis. And the joint between atlas and axis is pivot joint, which is a type of synovial joint. Then we have 12 thoracic vertebrae. We have 5 lumbar vertebrae. Then we have 5 sacral vertebrae. And we have 4 coccygeal vertebrae, but they all form together to form one bone. So total of 30 vertebrae are present. And this coccyx, which is our last vertebrae, is actually formed by the fusion of four vertebrae. Okay. So they have asked the number of cervical vertebrae in camel. Camel, we know, is a mammal. So mammals has have a characteristic feature that all the mammals they have seven cervical vertebrae. All the mammals, seven cervical vertebrae are present in all the mammals. Okay, and this is defining feature for all the mammals. So let us take a look at all the bones in short. In our vertebral system, we have different bones. So we have axial system and appendicular system. This is skeletal system consists of axial system and appendicular system. Appendicular system is formed by the limbs. We have forelimb and we have hind limbs. Two of the forelimbs are present and two of hind limbs are present. So each forelimb has how many bones? 30 bones. And each hind limbs has 8. Hind limb has 30 bones. So total bones in forelimbs are 30 into 2, that is 60. And total bones in the hind limbs are also 30 into 2, that is 60. Axial system consists of our pectoral girdle, pelvic girdle. We have pelvic girdle. Then we also have vertebrae. Then we have ribs. Okay, so these are all the bones that are present in our skeletal system, and total number of bones equate to that of 206. Okay, so this was a brief summary of this whole chapter. So we are done also done with the previous year questions. So thank you.